Wednesday. It's 2 p.m. It's time for the Blake and Jake Show. I'm Blake Wallace, your host, joined by my co-host and great friend, Jake Aaron.
Hello, hello.
Today's show is gonna be a banger, but I want to take a little time here to share my appreciation for you, the listeners. KCOU has been an incredible resource for me. It's shaping me and has shaped many other listeners, or many other talkers before me, to go on and find success in related career fields. KCOU's lifeblood are the listeners, and for that, we thank you. You can find The Blake and Jake Show on Spotify and YouTube at The Blake and Jake Show, or on Instagram, that's The Blake and Jake Show with no spaces. Thank you so much for your support. The sun is shining on us all today. It was all last weekend. I don't know about you, Jake, but I spent some time outside this weekend hanging out with the dogs, but also watching some Mizzou women's softball. Jake, have you gotten to watch any Mizzou softball this year?
Not yet, but I'm looking forward to hopefully I'm going to be able to catch a game sometime before school ends. So
must watch. Must watch. I wore the hat of a reporter here for KCOU on Friday when Mizzou would miraculously come back despite going 5 innings without a single hit and a series opener versus the number 9 ranked Florida Gators. I was so hooked with the experience. I doubled up on trips to the ballpark in just one weekend to watch the Gators avoid a Tigers sweep, but the atmosphere, the stadium ambiance, and the Mizzou's team is young, fun, and with a 33-11 record with just 10 games on their schedule left. So running out of time to catch a game. This team is too much fun to pass down, too much team not to watch, and what great value, so much entertainment. Every game matters, starting tonight against SIUE before 3 crucial conference series with the race to host the regionals tidying up here. Mizzou has everything to gain, but has earned nothing yet. With a strong end of the season, that could change. Tonight is bucket night 2, so if you see me rocking the new gear, mind your business. All right. The WNBA draft actually took place this week. No shocker who went number 1. Caitlin Clark will continue to play Midwestern basketball in the association, a move that likely benefits all parties involved. Some other exciting moves include the 6'4" defensive stalwart Cameron Brink to the Sparks, Camila Cardoso, and Angel Reese team up. They find themselves closer than ever. They're familiar as competitors, but now they team up to go to Chicago Sky as part of their 2024 draft class. Jake, I know your answer here, but I'll go ahead and ask it. Which player are you more excited to see in the WNBA? And do you know the last Mizzou Tiger to be drafted to the WNBA?
Okay, so the answer to your first question, of course, is going to be Caitlin Clark. But you mentioned the other two as well, Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese playing together really for the first time. That's going to be exciting. I know I've seen on social media how much they're looking forward to playing with each other, and fans got to be excited. You know, they're two high-class competitors. Now they're going to work together. I've also seen on social media maybe a little super team-ish with the two teaming up. I don't know, but we'll see how the season plays out. In terms of the last Mizzou Tiger, I don't know if she was the actual last one drafted, but Sophie Cunningham, is that right?
Yeah, that was a little bit of an easy one. I know
Okay.
That's what probably about 50% of our audience was yelling at their radio dial there. But yeah, it's Sophie Cunningham. She went second round, pick number 13 to the Phoenix Mercury. Now, I want to go ahead and answer my question, and I went away from Caitlin Clark because, like I said, I knew where you're going. But I've got to say the Chicago Sky's draft class is extremely interesting to me. I don't think that Angel Reese or Cardoso is exactly the perfect WNBA player yet, and especially, there's so much that needs to happen for both of them. But hats off to the Chicago Sky taking a swing there, getting 2 big, high-profile names that can definitely put in the work and become real stars for your team as well. That's just something now it's all about the organization and what they can do with those players, because certainly you draft everything you can't teach. And those 2 players, they have a lot of things you can't teach. Now it's about getting the post moves right, defensively, moving your feet a little bit better. I think that's what it all comes down to for those 2 players and that organization. The play-ins took off just last night, right? Lakers win. Big win over the Pelicans. Before I even begin on talking about my opinions after the game, go ahead and give me, what were your thoughts on the Lakers versus the Pelicans?
That was an exciting game. I'm going to be honest. I did not expect Zion Williamson to come out and drop 40 points on that Lakers team, but man, that was a good game, and I'm a little sad about Williamson's injury that happened. I think it would have been a little bit closer, the end result, if he didn't get injured, but he put up a heck of a fight for the Pelicans.
Yeah, the Pelicans were fun, and I knew Zion Williamson was going to come out and put on a show, because simply put, the final regular season game was not spectacular for him. He's to blame for that loss, in my opinion, with his poor stats. Go ahead.
But did you expect him to drop 40?
No, I expected something along like 30 and 12, 30 and 15 maybe. 15 rebounds against Anthony Davis is never an easy ask, but I expected a big game. I expected an energy game, and you could tell the way he was hitting the post moves. It didn't matter if it was LeBron James, Anthony Davis, or Austin Reeves. Everybody was getting bowled out of the way. And it was just like one of those games where you can't say that, he learn this big hump. Now that's just who he is every game. But for a one-game experience, that was exactly what you'd want to see out of Zion Williamson. And right now, Zion Williamson going out in the final minutes of the game, CBS and in The Athletic both report that this is a hamstring injury. That's got to put some. If you got to think, if he went out with just a few minutes left in the game, was unable to play, are the Pelicans going to be able to get him ready for the Kings game?
I think they're going to do whatever they can to get him ready. It's do or die for them, so they've got to try.
I certainly think so too. You know what? I was going to say I certainly think so, but this Pelicans team is an interesting one, right? You got Valanciunas, so you got size. It's not like Zion Williamson is your only size, and Zion Williamson isn't exactly a fantastic rebounder either. Then Ingram's working his way back into the lineup, and this trio, if Ingram is in, has played a lot without Zion Williamson. I don't think it's necessarily dead in the water. If we're talking about their next game against the Kings, I feel like I'm going deeper into this than I should, but I think that the Kings are just they're having some injuries as well. And then you get to talk about if they get that AC, they will be seeing the OKC Thunder. And maybe you get Zion back. That's an interesting thing. So not all negatives there for the Pelicans either. Once again, they have a chance to get into the playoffs with a win versus the Kings, who won against the Warriors last night. Before I get into just my opinions on all of this, and I am going to just go through a bunch of different things, not for just these teams, for the game or for the season. Talk to me about that Golden State loss with the Kings.
Excuse me. Well, that was a tough loss. That was a pretty bad loss. Excuse me. So, Sam Quinn.
I got you there, buddy. Go ahead and clear
Thank
your
you.
throat while I take care of you here. Yeah, no, my opinion of the game, I never really felt like Golden State had a chance. After it was pretty clear there was going to be some players going through some rough shooting nights. Keegan Murray was spectacular last night. I think that's one of those things we're going to start talking about, these X factors for teams. They're not going to be the Foxes of the world, right? Those are the superstars of the team. Not LeBron James. LeBron James is not an X factor. He's going to do what he does every single game. Fox is going to have a game 5-6 games out of the series, and you can just write that down. But these players like Keegan Murray, think about it for the Denver Nuggets. I think of, give me his name.
Denver Nuggets, Michael Porter Jr.
Michael Porter Jr., yes. I think of these X-factor players where if that player is playing well and your star players are doing their thing, it makes that team so much harder to beat. For the Kings, it has to be Keegan Murray this year. There is no other third option. Malik Monk stepped into that role last year, played it phenomenally. That's why the Kings had the success they did. That's why Mike Brown won Coach of the Year. This year, they have not had that, not with these injuries. It's been a little slower even before the injuries. Well, Keegan Murray has been the one bright spot if you look at that one play-in game against a big-time opponent. I mean, who is to say that the Golden State Warriors weren't going to go in there and shoot poorly? That was a big-time game. Keegan Murray came to play, and I think that's all you really have to ask for. There's still questions surrounding the team, but go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to say before, it doesn't have to do directly with the game, but it's Sam Quinn of CBS Sports wrote this, and I love it. It's kind of fitting that the Kings knocked off the Warriors. So the Warriors were 23-7 against the Kings from the 2014 season to the 2022 season, and the Kings never reached the playoffs in that span. But to see the Warriors dynasty last so long, where the Kings weren't very good in 2014. Now they're the ones to knock it off. It was just interesting to see that Warriors longevity, which will probably the dynasty is probably over, but we'll see about that. It's probably a conversation for another day.
Yeah. Now taking a look at just the play, just here are my notes. D'Angelo Russell. I was talking about X factors. The Lakers' X factor is not LeBron James. It's D'Angelo Russell. Has been all year. People have been giving entirely too much hate to D'Angelo Russell's season. He's shot the ball tremendously. The only thing sports pundits are always clamoring about that LeBron doesn't ever have is right here. He is the Lakers' best mid-range shooter, best three-point shooter, and does both off the dribble better than anybody else on the roster. He's simply the X factor for the Lakers. Yet, I got to see a little bit of Gabe Vincent. And really, nobody's gotten to see a whole lot of Gabe Vincent. Am I right? I mean, being injured for almost the entirety of the season, right off the cuff of the season, too, after signing, I believe, a 3-year, $33 million contract. And Gabe Vincent had his moments in last night's games. But the Lakers have run out of time getting him back into a groove. That was clear last night. Likely the first guard off the bench and the replacement for D'Lo in defensive situations. Vincent is one of those more strange cases this year, especially when trying to map out what his assistance to the team looks like in the playoffs. That's the biggest question for me. It's well documented that Jokic has had success offensively against Anthony Davis, regardless of his defense and rebounding. And I don't think I saw a whole lot from AD last night either. Not a lot that I like going into the playoffs. I get it. Did you need it? No. You had a great night. Pelicans are no slouch, especially if Zion's going to play like that. Then Valanciunas at the 5. It's not exactly a game where a true power forward like Anthony Davis is going to excel. But when you're going against Denver in the first round, regardless what round it is, AD needs to score 16-plus a night, in my opinion, and against Denver to get a chance. There cannot be a night where he goes 10, 12 points. This just doesn't seem like a winnable solution to me.
Yeah, to even have a chance, kind of like you said, Anthony Davis has to go off. LeBron, D'Angelo Russell, even Gabe Vincent, he's got to find his role, be that glue guy with the team in order for them to have a chance against the Nuggets.
Yeah, and there's something about doing everything for a team, but I just don't know if even if he does, even if he's great, and he is, he's going to do his best against Denver. And we've all known, and I just, detailed it, this is the one matchup where his defense hardly has an impact on the player that it needs to. And so when you're looking at it, there's no way that Anthony Davis can get cooked by Jokic, which happened last year, and not put up 16-plus games, 16-plus points a night. I get if D'Angelo Russell has a little bit more of a role this year, but there shouldn't be that hard finding 16. With the Golden State loss, you said that we might not get into this right now, but we are going to get into it. That's Chris Paul's last game as a Warrior. Nobody's as sad about that as possibly Klay Thompson's last game, though. I expect him to be re-signed, though. I expect it to be north of $50 million. The reports is that $2 million or 2 years, $48 million was on the table last year.
Him being Klay Thompson, correct? You're not talking about Chris Paul.
Klay Thompson, not okay. Chris Paul. Yeah, Klay Thompson should be re-signed, and it's going to be north of $50 million. I see it around 53, 54. They have to now. The Warriors have to now, because there's a little bit of this letting it get to this final moment here. And it's not as if Klay Thompson decides to look somewhere else for a paycheck, I don't see exactly 26.5 on the table for him. But is he going to get 20 somewhere? Possibly. And I think that's kind of what you do is you get him a little bit north of 55, rework it somewhere else, and get yourself below the apron, which is all the talk for the Golden State Warriors after that is the message from the front office to start the year is that they just want to get under that apron. I believe they're paying like $177 million just in taxes this year, which is insane. And that's why the Golden State Warriors are going to be heading back after the play-in and trying to figure out next year, how are we going to lose pieces and gain somehow. That's a tough predicament, but predicaments go on for the Pelicans versus the Kings. That's the matchup next. Now, this is a tough matchup for that 8th seed. You get OKC Thunder. It's technically a good spot to be in right now, right? There's pundits, not good ones, not good takes from pundits. Let me say that, and they're not good takes about the Lakers purposely losing their first play-in game and playing in this play-in game in order to get the 8th seed rather than winning and getting the 7th seed versus Denver. In a strange society where you can go ahead and say that the Lakers will win that game, sure. But there's no promise that the Lakers are going to win this game. The Kings have had their success. I mean, if the Warriors would have won, it's not like that Warriors-Lakers matchup would have been an easy one for the Lakers. It was an absurd topic. So now Lakers facing Denver, and Pelicans and the Kings are the two ones up for the bid. A lot of people think OKC is going to be easy this year. The Kings are 0-5 against the Pelicans this year. Talk to me about what you think that matchup looks like.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. I don't know, like, size-wise, what's going to happen for the Kings. I mean, look, if Zion plays like he played last night, I think the Pelicans are going to have no real troubles handling the Kings. But if not, even if he doesn't play at all, I think there is a chance that the Kings will be able to come out on top. But it's going to be an interesting game.
What's so interesting? This is Zion's year where he played in 70 different games. That's unheard of for Zion. Nobody saw them because he plays in New Orleans and the Pelicans, and you'll never see those games on TV. But Zion, in his last game versus the Kings, put up 31 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 3 steals in just 31 minutes.
Wow.
The opportunity to cook, if Zion is healthy and in the lineup, is there. There is an opportunity for Valanciunas to get like a double-double here with 10 and 10 realistically, if that's possible against this Kings team. So you've got to think, having Zion in that lineup in that same attacking mode as he was against the Lakers has to be the Pelicans' idea going into that game. The questions surrounding his availability don't linger just in a playoff game, because when you think about past this play-in game, if they win, let's just go there right now. We'll pencil in the Pelicans as winning this matchup and going to face the OKC Thunder. Well, the OKC Thunder are actually able to be attacked on kind of the forward and the post. They've got the size to attack OKC. So you've got to think, hey, it's got to be, if we can get them back in this lineup, it's gold or it's trouble for the Pelicans moving forward. Real quickly, we are going to give a Eastern Conference play-in preview before going to a quick break. The Hawks are in Chicago to take on the Bulls, and the Philadelphia 76ers welcome the Heat to Philly. The Heat and the 76ers have split their season series this year and are eager to set themselves apart from their regular season records. The 76ers have had to endure a loss to their superstar Joel Embiid for a majority of the season, and the Heat, who have always found their playoff selves, haven't. Or have they, right? I don't know. I really don't know, because they finished just 2 games over 500 in their final 20 games of the season. So go ahead and talk to me about what you see, Jake. I don't want to put any thoughts into your mind before you give us your take.
Yeah, in terms of the Heat versus the 76ers, it's going to be a very exciting matchup, because the winner plays the Knicks. So nothing's guaranteed, right? But although the Heat have won 3 of their last 4 games, and it's hard to bet against Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, but guess what? This really isn't the playoffs. So because of that, and you got Joel Embiid, he's coming off that injury. He's playing pretty well since coming back. I am out on the Heat for this game, and I'm taking the 76ers to move on.
It's a tough matchup, and if it wasn't Joel Embiid versus Bam Adebayo, who I think, if you want, other than take Jimmy Butler out of the equation, the next player I know that's going to show up is Bam Adebayo. I think Bam Adebayo is the most consistent player on that team. And tonight he draws the matchup of possibly, when healthy, really the best post defender or second best or third best. I don't really know. There's so many weird things. This year there might be there's the talk for this defensive player of the year stuff. Have you heard any about this? Rudy Gobert is possibly going to win his third.
Oh my gosh.
It's like maybe he's the best, but really I think everybody would take Joel Embiid. So it's just strange. This time of the year things like that get muddled where it's like, okay, he might win that award, but I'm taking Joel Embiid defensively, right? Here it's a good matchup for Embiid. I think that probably serves the 76ers pretty well. For the 9-10 game, a little strange, right? Once again, these teams on the Western Conference, it seems as if these teams might rise up and take down a giant, On the Eastern Conference, it's like, okay, these are the lower seeds that found their way into the playoffs and are a good first round for such and such. And that's really what this is going to be. You've got the Chicago Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks. Jake, hit me with that. Just what are your takes on this game?
All right, so the Bulls have a 2-1 record against the Hawks, and they also have more depth. Like, they have 4 players that's averaging at least 18 points per game, and then they have 4 more averaging 10 or more points per game. But the Hawks have Trae Young. But I honestly don't think that's going to matter too much because, you mentioned the awards. The Bulls have the most likely most improved player of the year, Kobe White. So overall, I'm going with the Bulls to win this one.
Momentum matters a lot to me, especially. I think that's why the Western Conference play-in interests me a lot more than the East, is because it felt like there was a real push, there was a real momentum to get there. I mean, if you look at the Lakers, let's talk about this real quickly here. Look at the Lakers in their last 20; they're 14-6. I'm looking here. I mean, it's crazy. And then I'm going to look at Toronto. I'm sorry, not Toronto. Atlanta. They're all red. Sorry. Atlanta is 8-12 in their last 20. And really, you're like, oh, okay, so was Chicago much better? And they weren't. And they weren't. Neither of these teams are 500 teams. The Chicago Bulls were 9-11. And really, that's how they've played in the last 20 games of the season. It's how they played the first 20 games of the season. And neither of them are top-flight teams. I do think that in this matchup, it serves the Bulls really, really well. I think just matchup-wise, player to player. But the Bulls fumble it so much. It was so hard to draw an opinion from this game. I think the Bulls win if they really come out and play to their full potential. But do I trust DeRozan to pull it out if it gets close? I don't think I do. I think I trust the Hawks.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is going to be out of all the playing games, I don't think this one's going to be the prettiest, but it definitely will be a playoff game. So we'll see how it turns out.
All right. And that is time for our break. Thank you so much for listening to Blake and Jake Show on KCOU 88.1. We have playoff predictions right on the other side of this break. Just as promised, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get into some predictions. We've already talked about what has happened in the play-in tournament. Now it's talking about what will happen in the play-in tournament. We have 5 playoff predictions. I have 2. Jake has 3 for you. And I think I will go ahead and start us off because I think this will be the coolest one of possibly all the takes. Jake, I'm going to ask for your opinion shortly. Celtics, tidy up the East. That's what I think. Get your brooms out because here come the sweeps and the gentlemen sweeps. The 76ers are likely to win tonight. The Heat into the season playing 500 basketball. I know everyone wants to point to recent Heat playoffs games, but if they can't show me tonight against easier competition, when in dire need of wins, and especially to end the season not finishing above 500, I don't expect it to show up against the best team in the NBA this far. I expect the Cavaliers matchup in the second round versus Boston because Orlando's just a little bit too fresh and no one can really hang with Donovan Mitchell on that squad. The Spider is a must watch in the playoffs. My favorite playoff series ever was actually Mitchell's and Denver's Jamal Murray's when they traded buckets back and forth, including both players putting up 50 in Game 4 of that series. That was spectacular. I think that the Cleveland Cavaliers are an interesting team. However, the Celtics have all sorts of answers for the talented guards the Cavaliers have, starting with the underrated Drew Holiday and continuing about 5 names down. This series should be fun and fin in 5. How do you like that?
I like it.
The conference finals is the last barrier to the Celtics. And getting back to the NBA finals, the other side of the bracket is a real true toss-up. Don't know who's coming out of that side of the Eastern bracket right now. The Knicks or 76ers will likely survive to face the Celtics, but will be facing a maxed momentum team that will have the luxury of being fully rested. I see the Celtics losing 2 games, maybe 3 at the most, during their takeover of the East. Jake, what are your thoughts?
That is not a very hot take in my opinion. I think that is I don't say it's that bad because I kind of agree with you. Honestly, I think that the Celtics are gonna clean up the East. I don't think they're gonna have a whole lot of trouble. They might in the Eastern Conference Finals, but before that, I think it'll be a breeze.
Okay, so go ahead and tell me right now, Celtics Cavaliers second round. How many games does it take the Celtics to polish them off?
Second round against, I say it'll take them 6 games.
6 games.
Yep.
Okay. What about the 76ers in
76ers?
the conference final?
In the conference final, 76ers, I say 5 at most.
Ooh, so you think that the Cavaliers will put up a better fight against the Celtics?
I do, yeah. I think Embiid's gonna try, but I don't know what else. They have. I don't know how else it's gonna work out for him. But I think Mitchell's gonna absolutely go off.
All right. So you did say, hey, the only thing I think was too crazy. I don't have to ask you about round 1. I know you're gonna say 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So you're really saying that maybe a little bit of struggle against the Cavs, but otherwise they sleek through. I think that was about how I thought it would land with you. Go ahead.
All right, so my first playoff prediction, mine are more player-centric, and they're all very hot. So my first playoff prediction, Nikola Jokic will average a 20-point triple-double in the playoffs.
A 20-point triple-double.
That is going to be his average.
So you're thinking
I'm thinking he is going to have a bonkers playoffs this.
Like a 21, 11, and 10?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's not hot at all. I think that's cooler.
Think so?
I think that's cooler than my picture. I mean, yes, this team's interesting, and the Nuggets, the more they grow, I expect the weight to come off of Jokic a little more and a little more. But this, this is a really, I don't know what Jokic's numbers last year were, but it has to be similar.
I don't know, but I think it was triple double ish, but I don't think it was. I don't think it was that much.
I bet it was over 20.
You think it was over 20?
Yeah. You know what? Go ahead and look that up first.
Right,
I'll go ahead and shoot in a second, but I say that is not a hot take at all. In fact, I think the floor would be like a 29 and 8 for him. So I mean, even the floor being that is quite insane. All right. While you're looking that up, I am going. Go ahead. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Oh man.
Hit me.
He averaged 30 points, 13 rebounds, and 9.5 assists.
Yep. That's,
okay. You're totally right about that.
That is way cooler than mine. I am winning so far. All right. Now for my take. This is take number 3. The Mavericks versus the Clippers and the Denver Nuggets versus the Lakers are the 2 must-watch series in the first round. Starting with the Dawn and the Mavericks. It feels like Luka finally has everything he needs to compete and beat the top-tier teams in the Western Conference. The addition of a superstar talent like Kyrie and big-time additions in the post with P.J. Washington and Gafford at the 5 could see the Mavericks find themselves deep in the Western Conference run with a big win over the Clippers. The Clippers have the ability to steal the show, and they certainly have the names to do it. On paper, the Clippers are a top 3 team in the NBA. They will either live up to it or find themselves a footnote in building Luka's legacy. The lazy analysis on this... I'm sorry. That was going into something else. I am so sorry. So let's just go ahead and stop with that one, with my take there. So right now, that isn't super clear what my take is. But my take is that the Luka-led Mavericks beat the Clippers in 5. What are your thoughts?
I agree, in my totally unbiased opinion, that the Mavericks are going to win. But I honestly think the game is going to go 6 or 7. I hope it does. I also hope it goes in the Mavs' favor. I want to see as much of these two teams battle it out as possible. But I think the Mavs are going to come on top, and I think it's going to be a really, really good series. And like you said at the beginning, a must watch for NBA fans.
Yeah, and I mean, think about what this. We've already talked about it a little bit, but what this playoff run could really mean for Luka. In the first round, we'll for sure get a rival of his in the Clippers. And then in the second round, if the Suns can somehow topple the Minnesota Timberwolves, then he gets to play his other rivals right up all the way into the conference championship. At that point, he might just be so hot there's nobody on earth that could slow that man down. Like, that really is a possibility being set up by just the way the standings fell for the Mavericks.
And Luka is also pretty good friends with Jokic, so to go up against these two, the enemy in the Clippers and then the enemy in the Suns, and then to hopefully, in my opinion, beat his friend in Nikola Jokic, that would be an amazing playoffs for Luka.
I certainly agree. Now, breaking down the Denver versus Lakers game, this one I'm going to be. I feel less bullish on than when I first made it, but I love it. So the lazy analysis on the Lakers and the Denver Nuggets matchup is that the Nuggets completely dominated the Lakers and will continue to do so. Last year, the Nuggets won their 4 games by 6 in Game 1, 5 in Game 2, 11 in Game 3, and just 2 points in Game 4. The games were that close. These were not blowouts. The Nuggets at no point were dominating this series. These teams played in late May. The Lakers will have more rest going into this series after winning last night, but will also benefit from not having to play back-to-back nights like they do in later rounds. This could affect the fourth quarter of games. Last year, LeBron-led Lakers faltered in fourth quarters in this matchup. They didn't look so great in the game last night. Some pundits already accredit that to fatigue. The rest and getting the matchup in round 1 makes this matchup the most fun. The Nuggets have really gotten up for the Lakers since losing that series 4-1 in the bubble. The drama will be high and both teams will be in top form. I think that the Lakers have a real chance here. And I'm not saying just a 7-game chance. This is about who captures the first away game. I expect Denver to win Game 1. I expect Game 2 to be highly contentious. I expect the Lakers to win Game 1 of their back home. Now, that fourth game for the Lakers bothers me because I think if you're sitting there and say the record's 2-1 or 1-2 the other way for the Nuggets, and the Nuggets are going back home saying we could win both games and find ourselves, like we could win 2 more games and find ourselves on top. You don't want to make it close with the Nuggets. I think that's not a recipe for success with the Lakers either. I think it's got to be a win in Game 2, a dominant home showing, and a closeout game. A strong closeout game. That's not exactly riding it to the wire, and I think the longer you take with the Nuggets, the more time you give Jokic to throw a 30, 35-foot turnaround 360 three-point shot up twice against AD with a hand in his face, possibly one of the best defenders in the NBA. So the less time that Jokic gets to do that, the better for the Lakers. What are your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, I still have the Nuggets going on, but and I do have the Nuggets beating them, not handily, but I think the game will probably go 5-6 games. I mean, the series will go 5 or 6 games. But kind of like you said, I think in order for the Lakers to have a chance, they're gonna have to absolutely dominate. The games cannot be close.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say dominate, though I think you're on the right track. It is going to have to be like in the fourth quarter, Lakers are up 5, and the Nuggets never penetrate that 5. Like that's how it's not an easy ask. The Lakers here are definitely, punching up, but the possibility feels more there than it does even at last year, really. And is that your take as well, Jake?
Well, that's not exactly my take, but I kind of. I do agree that it's gonna be different than last year, but we'll see about their chances.
Do you think this year's Lakers team is better than last year's? because the Nuggets have stayed the same. I don't really have to. I mean, except for Bruce Brown. I do think that loss of Bruce Brown will come up in the playoffs. I don't know if it'll hurt them, but it is. Bruce Brown is the kind of guy that does it all. I really think of him as like a mini Draymond Green, and you can always benefit from a mini Draymond Green that doesn't punch people.
In terms of the Lakers, I think this team might be better. I don't know the stats or anything in front of me, but well, how far did the Lakers go last year? Do you know? Or they weren't in.
They went all the way to the Nuggets and lost to the Nuggets in 4. This is where they drew dead, but they were deep into. I believe that was the conference finals or close to it. I mean, they had gone in there. Yeah, and I want to point that out is once again, once you get in those later rounds, that extra day of rest isn't there. They're back to backs. You know, they're every other night. You're playing a big game, and who does that affect most? That affects older guys, and the Lakers are now the epitome of older guys. I think they have my grandpa in basketball years on that squad. I having them in the first round. If there's ever a chance for the Lakers, it's now, right? That's if you ever wanted one shot, and if you're saying, hey, it has to be you versus the Nuggets for the West. Now you can play them in any round. You play them in round 1, and I think that's really one of the things that the Lakers have going in their direction. And it's time for us to go ahead and pivot for the last 14 minutes of the show. We're bringing up UFC 300 because UFC 300 took place in Las Vegas this weekend. Dana White promised a top flight card, unlike anything fans had ever seen before. And the fighters are the ones that delivered. It feels silly to start anywhere else other than Max Holloway finishing Justin Gaethje in the final second of the 5th round to win the BMF belt. The win finally gives the BMF belt loads of legitimacy that it needed, because even the way Max Holloway won the belt was worthy of the BMF. For those unfortunate enough not to have seen the fight yet, Max Holloway pointed to the center of the octagons with seconds on the clock to offer Justin one more chance to win the fight before time expired. The always game but beaten Justin Gaethje answered the call, stepping in and trading blows until Holloway's hook connected squarely on the chin, sending him crashing to the canvas. Just 1 second left in the fight. This is not the first time Max Holloway has done this either. Fans can find this fight versus Ricardo Lamas. An identical situation. Holloway points identically to the center of the octagon to trade despite being seconds away from a victory on the scorecards. The moment with Ricardo Lamas has been a long-standing favorite of mine. It's a scene that I envision in my head countless times. I like to say, give it your best shot. If you've already given it your best shot, give it your last shot. I built that off of the same feelings I get watching Max point to the center of a ring right there, final seconds, everything already in the bag, but the man just loves to fight, Jake. The man is the BMF. He has always been the BMF, and people have always been wondering, what is the BMF? Is it important? Does it matter? Well, the UFC answers because they finally unite the belt with the rightful owner and Max Holloway. So I want to hear just what were your thoughts on the fight. Now, you didn't get to watch the fight. I was watching the fight, and I was messaging you saying, you're going to have to watch this fight. And you watched the fight on Tuesday, so go ahead and give us the breakdown.
Yeah, so I saw the fight on Tuesday, and I knew what was going to happen. I knew Max Holloway was going to win with 1 second left, but the way that he did it, where he tells him, like, come here, like you said, one last shot, and then he just boom. I mean, it was something else. It was amazing.
I think about Jorge Masvidal and what he said right here is, I think he just got it correct. He said Max is your favorite fighter's favorite fighter, and it's because he's everybody's favorite fighter. You watch him, and there's so much passion in the moment, right? That's what it's all about. The fighting is so much more than two men finding out which one is better. It's more than that because fans, oh, okay, interesting, whatever. But when you fight with the passion that Max does, it's it makes you understand how he has the fan base that he does, how he has accrued such a loyal following that's able to show up anywhere, including Las Vegas. Despite him coming from Hawaii and pretty much just repping Hawaii, he doesn't represent like the United States of America. And that's one of the few distinctions. Like, you'll get these guys from Nevada or Minnesota, and they're not repping Minnesota. They're repping, the United States of America. And to see Max Holloway, huge following, despite focusing really on a smaller community, it's awesome. It makes waves. I think that's what's most important here. Who should Max Holloway put the BMF belt on the line for?
I'm going to go with Ilia Topuria. I think that would be pretty interesting. He's been on an undefeated run in the UFC since 2015, but Holloway, it seems that he's gotten better with every fight. Plus, I don't know if you heard about this, but Topuria kind of called Holloway out on social media. He also told ESPN Deportes that he said that the knockout was good, but he said it was nothing special. So which is crazy to me. But I think a little bit of blood between these two, I guess. But I would love to see these two fight.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give you that backstory there. It's a good backstory. I'm glad you caught on to that. Max Holloway wanted to fight and felt like he deserved to fight with Topuria before this fight. Not saying that he should have fought him without. He obviously had a fight scheduled, was focused on that fight, but it was really Ilia Topuria going out of the way saying Max Holloway does not deserve to fight me. And why not? Max Holloway, first of all, Max Holloway now is, in my eyes, in the running to fight at featherweight if he wants to. But if he does, you got to look at, all these different people. I want to go down the rankings of featherweight for you real quick. Of course, we got Ilia Topuria. Number 1 is Volkanovski. Then number 2 is Max Holloway. 3, Brian Ortega. Max Holloway's beat him. Number 1, Volkanovski. We've talked about they've already had 3 matches. It's not really that exciting. Yair Rodriguez. Max Holloway's beat him. Arnold Allen's number 6. Max Holloway's beat him. Josh Emmett. I don't need to see that. Calvin Kattar, number 9. Max Holloway beat him. There's obviously Max Holloway's had his way with most of the people in this division just because he's been winning for so long. Other than Ilia Topuria and the belt, what do you do? Because the only other name I haven't mentioned that is of extreme relevance here is Movsar Iloev. And interesting, but I don't know if that's a reason for Max Holloway to go down to featherweight. I think he looked fantastic at lightweight. It was a question that I had. Can he hold that lightweight frame? And when the fight against Poirier, it was so clear that he was not able to hold that kind of frame next to Poirier's. That's different now. That's different. He's ranked number 9 currently in the lightweight division. This is a fighter that could fight one time. Max Holloway is now just the 3rd. I mean, this is one fight. It could be Charles Oliveira. It doesn't have to be necessarily a spectacular fight. And as long as it's above him, I think that he should be in line for a title shot against Islam Makhachev if he sees so fit. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, let me ask you this though: do you think he'll see fit to fight him?
If you are asking me what is best right now for Max Holloway, I hope that and I don't know the declaration on this because the BMF belt should be treated as unique. I don't think he should have to put it on a line versus a champion. I think that should be something kind of like in the olden days when they used to fight without putting championships on the line, even if they had a belt. I don't think the BMF belt should be just paraded around like that. It feels right in Holloway's hand, and he can headline an event as the BMF title holder, even if he loses. I think that's the best way to go for the UFC, is to make that belt not one that he has to give up every single time he fights. Let him keep it. Then I don't see him winning against Islam Makhachev. I don't see the wrestling holding up. So go back, give it your shot versus Ilia Topuria. That is not an easier matchup. Ilia Topuria is a killer. The issue is what do you do after he wins the championship? For Holloway, he now has the opportunity, if he gets to keep the BMF belt, to say, I've won that. Now I might relinquish it and go fight for the BMF. Or maybe I'll go fight for the BMF. I don't have to fight this division right now. Maybe he goes up and fights, or maybe Sean O'Malley comes up and fights him. Like, that's a possibility. The issue is, though, after that, it becomes, when is Volkanovski going to get a shot to knock down Holloway for a billionth time and reclaim his championship off of Holloway. Nobody wants to see Volkanovski regain a championship off of beating Holloway, but that could be a possibility if he goes featherweight. It's so interesting. I think that is one of the more fun topics of the UFC thus far. But there's more to talk about. In fact, the next fight, despite having like a little bit of this strange effect, after you see a fight like that just hit so many emotion chords for humans, it's hard to then regather yourself and then fall right back into focus and love with fighting. And Zhang Weili and Yao Shannon did that really quickly because they put on a burner. Zhang is crazy good. She's a crazy good championship for that division as well, that strawweight division. Wow. I mean, in the first round, getting the submission, choking her out at the final second, yet Xiaonan waking up almost, and hats off to Xiaonan. I know that's not easy. You can't. Yan did not have an easy go there, being choked out, having just seconds to kind of give herself the illusion of being good and well and getting to the corner. It gets to the corner. And then the next round, it feels like one round later, Zhang Weili's throwing 70 ground strikes, and suddenly Yao Shannon reverses the position, and you're saying, oh my gosh, did Weili tire herself out? We've seen this so many times. And in title fights as well. This isn't something that eludes champions. This is a human condition. And yet Zhang Weili was able to overpower, throw those strikes, still be able to regain enough energy to close out in the final rounds. It's a decision, and not all decisions are equal. That's what I'll say right here. Zhang Weili put in a masterclass performance that should be considered the best, one of the best performances in that division championship's history. And now it's just who's left for Tatiana Suarez. Or I'm sorry, for Zhang Weili, and it is Tatiana Suarez. I gave it up a little bit. 10-0, young fighter, but what else in that division really is there that can hold a candle to what Weili was showing? I mean, I think of all this as tape, and what strawweight in that division is going to say, I have tape that shows that this could be an interesting matchup? To me, it's the wrestling, it's the jiu-jitsu prowess of Tatiana Suarez that could offer some sort of complication for Zhang Weili, because right now, that fight, she had so many opportunities to lose. I mean, she went all out there, put it on the line, and then existed for 2 or 3 more rounds. And it's faulty to say existed, because it really wasn't. She was putting in work really 4 out of the 5 rounds. And what are your thoughts on that, Jake? What are your thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, that was a really good fight. After that, I don't know what you call it, but when she was put to sleep, I was like, okay, this has got to be it. This has got to be it. And then like her eyes open and she like walks back. I'm like, oh my gosh, like she's still in this. I was shocked. But and just the fact that she tried afterwards. She threw her punches. It wasn't like she totally just gave up after that. So I think that was really, really impressive.
Yeah, and great point. Yao Shannon, that was an exceptional fighter. There was like talk about, is this the UFC just trying to position Chinese fighter versus Chinese fighter on the biggest card? It wasn't. It wasn't. That was spectacular. When I look up and down this rankings now, it's hard for me to find another fighter that can offer something that Yao did not to Zhang Weili, and I think that's the difference there. Finally, I give out 2 awards here. These awards go for low self-esteem awards. Bo Nickel, Arman Sarukian. Your fights were fantastic. Bo Nickel, you finished him in the second round. I get it was Cody Brundage. Maybe you wanted it to be a ranked opponent. You finished him in the second round. What's with the, I'm not impressed with my performance. Whatever. High five. You're awesome. Get out of here, okay? You're going to be fighting ranked opponents next. I see Fluffy Anderson is who we called out next. I believe number 12 on the rankings. Fantastic. I would love to see a lot of those matchups. Imamov is in that division, I believe, at number 8. I like that matchup as well. Paul Craig has a fight already in the works in a few weeks here, but Paul Craig versus that would be something. That would be really something. The wrestling of Bo Nickel, the jiu-jitsu of Paul Craig. Let's see it. And finally, Armin Sarukian. I get it. To me, Armin Sarukian also wins the bad luck award. He slipped right into an opening choke against the guy with the most submissions in the UFC. Like, how do you put yourself in a worse position to start the fight? And then at the very end, too, it was almost a slip. I do feel like Oliveira had some part to play in that last slip more than the first slip. The first slip was just, what happens. But the last slip, too, put him in a horrible position. Yet, to me, it felt like Sarukian answered every question against one of the hardest guys to answer these questions. Again, I mean, you went to the ground in a terrible position, took 2 minutes, stayed down there for 2 minutes, worked yourself to a better position, and got out of there. You even reversed it. So, hey, answered a lot of tests. Pat yourself on the back, Armin Sarukian. You're going to be a champion in this division. I'm calling it right now. I've called it. I've called Sean O'Malley. I've called Taporia all at the same time. You're the next one. To me, I just say, relax a little bit, celebrate the win. We're going to celebrate our win here because that is a wrap for today's show, the Blake and Jake Show on KCOU 88.1 FM. I invite listeners to follow our show's Instagram, the Blake and Jake Show, no spaces, to keep up with the boys and follow the show closer. Your support means the world to us. If you caught part of the show, but not the whole show, or maybe you want to hear the whole show over again, check us out on Spotify and YouTube at The Blake and Jake Show. It has been an absolute pleasure, and we hope to see you next week for another episode of The Blake and Jake Show, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. on KCOU 88.1 FM. Thank you for listening.